Okay, so I'm here in Lisbon, just outside of Lisbon, with Maruja. Very glad you could join me today, and we're going to talk a little bit about the vision around open educational resources. So first, if you could just for the video state your name, your position, and
well, my name is Maruja Guttierez, and I'm Spanish, as you can hear.
Yes.
I have been working in the European Commission for 22 years now, and since the Lisbon Council in 2000, I was offered the possibility to work for education, for the learning initiative that I started, and I found it fascinating, and I've been converted to the use of ICT in education and training, and I think it's not only the Commission, it's myself, we think it is a fantastic resource and about the only possibility we have to convert the lifelong learning paradigm in reality.
I agree. I think it's a really exciting and challenging time to be in the area.
It is.
So if we focus on open educational resources, as you know, we've had a massive growth in the movement in the last 10 years. What do you think are the key opportunities that OERs offer education?
Well, the first thing I thought is that they are fantastic for a lot of people who don't have the resources to access other more expensive, more exclusive, I mean, if you are talking lifelong learning, you are really talking about education for all. But then it's not only for the, and there we have a problem, the same with distance education, that often it was thought to be like a kind of second level education. And we think that's not the case, quite the contrary. It can be also the way in which very, very specialized resources which are meant for a limited number of people can be made available. So we thought that there was a huge scope for them. We thought also, and we still think, that the switch to digital television, digital radio would make it the ideal resource for masses. This hasn't entirely happened, but we still think it will come. So we thought that they were a fantastic solution for a range of educational needs which are not adequately covered by the traditional education systems. And therefore we thought that there was no conflict, that there is place for both resources, for commercial and non-commercial, for open and for traditional, closed, whatever you want to call them. Again, this has not turned out to be the case, and I don't entirely understand why. So when I see that there is a fresh push, and we think that this last movement, I'm thinking about the last 2-3 years since the Open University has come into that, and we are also following with a lot of interest the European Association of Distance Teaching Universities. They are also into open learning resources, and the Open University in Catalonia and the Open University in Madrid. I mean, all main open universities are really going for open educational resources. So we think that little by little these technical and cultural barriers will be overcome.
Brilliant, thank you. You touched upon this a bit, but what else do you think are the key challenges in terms of realising this vision?
Well, several. The main, I think, was mentioned by Ulf yesterday, is a lack of trust. There was a lack of access also, because you don't know, there is still not a clear path to resources. For example, yesterday at the university, most people would say they are good, they have a good level. There are many others in the system, in many other languages, for example, which you don't entirely know if they are what you need or not. So, but again, we have seen that the problems of tagging them, of using standards, have proven too complex, and they don't fit the needs of users. So this problem of access still is there, and there was also the internet part, but that I am leaving aside, because in the last 2-3 years also, the surge in access to internet has been phenomenal in Europe. So now practically everybody has access to internet, so prices, but that I will leave for the time being aside. But so if the access problem is, physical access problem is a little bit in the way of being solved, the logical, can I call it that? I mean, what is exactly the resource you need? Then that's not entirely clear. So, and there is a lot of self-directed learning, and we thought that for continuing professional development, self-directed learning is very important, and open resources and open access is the way to go, because you are working, you don't have time, you don't have other possibilities, but there is this lack of user-oriented mechanisms to provide you with that kind of guidance.
I agree with you. I think the vision behind metadata and standards is not really being achieved, and it's not close enough to real practice, which is why, for example, we've been developing things like the CloudWork site, because I think that dialogic element of sharing and discussing with others is probably the best way to pass on good practice.
We have been running the e-twinning experiment, it's going very well, and we have now about 50,000 European teachers, so it's really true. It's
fantastic.
We have tried the tagging, but then we saw it was very complicated, so there is a minimum amount of tagging, just enough to give you a very, very broad classification by subject, practically. It is only that, because we thought we wouldn't like to lose the momentum and the enthusiasm into what was in like a more technical and less interesting, but in the sharing. And for sharing, they are absolutely open.
This is in SchoolNet, or?
This European SchoolNet, yes. Well, it is the Commission funding it, but we are the European SchoolNet is running the European platform, and then each member state has its own, usually they are in the Ministry for Education, they have their own platforms for supporting teachers. And I think that was before of guidance, maybe it is that kind of support which is needed, because if a teacher has the slightest technical doubt, they can call and they get over that and they go on using it. If that help wasn't available, possibly that would be the death of the project. So and really it is simple, because if you keep it simple, it works.
Yes,
so we think that at the first level that has been proven, and of course e-twinning is a good example of open educational resources. All the projects, all the material they develop, it's open and shared. There is no, and the standards is, sorry, doesn't come to the Creative Commons.
Yeah.
They have proved also to be clearly understood by everybody, and enough of the experiment. Now, if we would like to go beyond that and to provide really well-structured training and opportunities for self-development, for professional development, and well, the equivalent of what would be the more formal structured education, we have to go beyond that.
I agree. Now, as you know, in the OPAL project, our vision is to try and look at practices around the creation and use of OER. What are your thoughts on the project?
Well, I thought it's fantastic. I thought this is a step in the right direction, because what was missing, I was trying to explain, what was missing is precisely the personal dimension, not the resource in itself, which can be there, but the teacher, the trainer, the student who is using it. And so it is in the pedagogical practice, and we have been saying this for years, that it is not the technical part is there, but the pedagogical side is lacking, and there is a need for people who, and I think what this project can be very useful is that you have people who understand the technical part of them, really know what you're talking about, but you can bring it closer to the practitioner. How you are going to do it? No, I will come next year and see what happens.
Yes.
Because again, I was discussing with the colleagues from work that how do you codify practices? How do you, I mean, in the European Commission, because we think that's one of the useful things we can do, is support peer learning and exchanges of good practice, and we support in groups, in clusters, you name it, working on different issues. And from time to time, we build a collection of best practices. Last year was running the European Year of Creativity and Innovation, and we built a collection of 100, I think, very good practices on teachers supporting developing creativity in primary and secondary schools. What do you do with them?
Yes.
How do you make them available to people?
Yeah.
They are there, the PDF in our website. Somebody will find it by chance.
Yes.
But this is not the way.
I agree. And finally, I mean, are there any other thoughts that you'd like to add? Anything you feel we haven't covered?
I would like to add the systems view, I mean the educational systems view, because I think that's a very important angle in which we think is the main opportunity and the main obstacle. How to explain, because I mean digital things, use of open resources is happening at home. Still, when you see in most European countries the graphics of usage of internet, whatever, of young students, pupils at home and at school, the difference, the gap is tremendous. And I think we need to bridge that gap, because if you don't set the places well at school and for teachers, it will be very difficult for people later to make all the use. I think these resources have such a potential. Really, I'm very sad to think that a lot of people cannot benefit from them. And I think teachers, and we are focusing very much on our work in the Commission now, teachers are really the glue, the basic stone, foundation stone of the education system.
I agree. Thank you so much, Maruja. Really interesting talk. Thank you. That's brilliant.
You edit it as you wish.